Hey everybody, how are you? It's Davidson from doesbiz.com. I hope you're very well and not being too bored whilst being locked away. And welcome to Business Basics for this Wednesday night. And I thought I might change things up a bit this week and talk about business writing skills and learn about the 5 principles of basic business writing. So, as always, I would welcome feedback on any of the live streams that I do. It'll help me improve and I'm in for future broadcasts. And welcome. I'm so glad that you joined me. So let's get started on the slides. And you know what? I keep forgetting to click the button so you can see my face. So there you go. It'll all be in the background and everything will happen. So just click on the slides now and see how we go. So success as a writer depends on your ability to use language in ways that enables the reader to receive the message you intended accurately and clearly. Your writing is successful if the audience can comprehend your thoughts on the first reading. However, most adults have a tendency to overcomplicate their writing. Simply write to express a thought, not to impress the reader of your command of sophisticated phraseology. So grab a pen and paper for note taking. The notes from this presentation will be available in the Facebook group tomorrow. And I've also compiled a booklet that's easy to read, and so that'll be available in the unit section as well. So let's start off about the composing process. So planning your writing. Planning is the key to producing an effective piece of writing. Using a spidergram may help you. So organise the content of your writing in the most effective and logical way for your audience, and write quickly and with purpose. Creating a spidergram. So if you don't know what a spidergram is, I'll show you an example in a moment. So you write the purpose of your writing in the body of the spidergram. Record all relevant information around the body of the spider, attaching each piece of information to a leg of the spider. Once you have all relevant information recorded, start looking for groupings or headings. When all information is grouped under a heading, look for a logical order in which to structure your document, and remember to consider your audience's needs when doing this. So it's a bit like using post-it notes, I guess. You put a theme in the middle and then you put your post-it notes around it. So this is an example of a spidergram. So as you think, so things to do near me. So then you put your legs out, and you brainstorm, I guess, what you can do in those things. And so it's the same with writing. You can think of ideas about what you want to write about. So the principles of clear writing. Vary the length of your sentences, and this makes for easier, more fluent reading and therefore increased understanding. If you're stuck with an awkward or confusing sentence, break it into 2 sentences. Chances are that you are trying to put too much into one sentence. Continuous use of short sentences requires duplication of words and does not allow the writing to flow in a conversational way. Sometimes the brain has trouble concentrating on things continuously throughout long sentences, and the brain then becomes tired. So readers are unable to follow all of the ideas. Also, long sentences require remarkable grammatical skills, which most people do not have. Most people risk trouble at about 30 to 35 words. And as the sentence goes on, important points become buried in and go unnoticed in the sentence. Number two. Number two is your main message first. So this is important, and it applies to documents, paragraphs, sentences. So you need to make sure that the idea of your document highlights the main message first. So here's an example. The brain does not accept what it does not expect. So it processes information, and the short-term memory has, has lots of little slots, and the working memory has, it becomes bored, and so doesn't comprehend as well. And here's an example. There's lots of examples throughout here, and so you want to grab the booklet in the unit section, because all of these examples are actually in the booklet. So you need to make sure that your sentences and paragraphs begin with the main idea or the messages that you want to convey, and supporting information then follows. So you need to firstly write the purpose or aim of the document, and it's always first. So here on the left-hand side, it's a low impact. So it's not really telling, or it's not really telling the reader what they want to know. Where on the right-hand side, it's better for the reader because the sentences are short. It's telling exactly in the beginning what the reader needs to know. So whether in the left-hand side it just says consultant visit, where on the right-hand side it actually gives asks for her availability on the day that the consultants are going to visit, and then it goes on to say what's important, where on the right-hand side it's just brief and to the point, and not it doesn't give a lot of information. So the next part is, let me get to it, is active voice. So active voice in your writing. So active voice. In example 1, it's important that all visitors to the building are checked by the supervisors of each area to be sure that they have appropriate clearance. And example 2 is supervisors of each area need to check visitors to the building to ensure that visitor has appropriate clearance. So which one do you think would be the best one? I think example 1 probably, but we'll see. We'll find out. So here's again is another sample of active versus passive voice. So example 1 is the subject is the dog, the verb is buried, and the object is the bone. And in object 2, so the dog buried the bone, and in example 2, the bone was buried by the dog. So I think the object of the writing is first, but the dog is like second, isn't it? So the bone is what is more important than the dog. So So you need to use a conversation style when you're writing your letters or your documents. It makes for, I've lost everything. What's going on here? There we go. So most of us are far better at speaking than we are at writing, and generally we speak well and fluently. So using active voice, and we use active voice quite naturally. Therefore, it helps the speed and comprehensibility of our written work if we write as we speak. This is not to say that we write in slang. Writing needs to be more precise than conversation because the reader has ample opportunity to reread and detect errors. Rather, when we are stuck for words we we should ask ourselves, how would I say this if the person was standing in front of me? So that's really important. So in example 1, the key to effective writing is familiar words used in everyday language, and some business writing experts state that the complexity of words should be pitched at a year 8 level, others no higher than year 10. So there is an exception to this rule, and it's the use of technical terms and jargon. Often technical terms and jargon are more precise, so use them if the reader knows what they mean. If you use a technical term that is unfamiliar to the reader, simply define it in the text, or if preferred, in a footnote. If there are many unfamiliar technical terms in a report, include a glossary at the end. Acronyms are the same. Always define what an acronym is in the first part. So if you used Business Basics just as an example, and you wanted to abbreviate that as an acronym, you could put BB, but put Business Basics and then put BB in brackets. And then you can use the acronym for the rest of the document because you've outlined what BB stands for. It may also be useful to the reader to include a glossary of terms if there are many acronyms throughout the document. And that's quite useful for official documents, especially if they have technical terms and you need to use acronyms for lots of things. So as you can see in the example, it's really confusing to the reader. It uses too many technical terms, and if you're a layperson, then you would never understand what that meant. But in the second example, it's quite easy to understand. So that's what this is what this is trying to say. So then there's the power of formatting, and formatting of your document is very, very important, and we'll find out why. So formatting techniques is headings and tables and bold and shading, and when you should use these. Headings help the reader interpret content more easily, so what the mind does not expect, it will not accept. Use title case for the name of the document, that is, capitalize the first letter of each word, as I've done here in the heading here of formatting techniques. Use sentence for headings in the document. Capitalize the first letter of the first word only. So as I've used in headings, tables, shadings and bold. Do not capitalize words as they are very hard to read. And using bold, it's used to give emphasis. However, be selective when using bold. Too much bold can become visually distracting. The use of tables. A large amount of information can be presented clearly and concisely using this technique, and it saves, I guess, confusion. You can set them out, you can put bullet points in it, and yeah, it shortens your document too as well. So, but reduce the size of the font by at least 1. So if you're using a font 12, scale it down to at 11. It just makes it easier to read. And align the text and figures to align the text to the left and figures to the right of a column, and align decimal points and shade headings. And using shading, this is used to emphasize the heading within the table, but be selective or the shading may become visually distracting. The font is really important. Keep the number of fonts used within the document to a minimum, and select fonts that are easy to read. Don't use fancy calligraphy or things like that. Bullets and numbering. Use a stem sentence, and I'll go into what a stem sentence is, to introduce the bulleted or numbered list. White space. White space gives shape to your document and helps to orientate readers. Good use of white space makes a page look uncluttered and more inviting. It also makes documents easier to read. I don't know that if you've heard that, even on your website, white space is really great. It brings the eye to what you're trying to portray to the reader of the page. And use short paragraphs. Words total a maximum of 7 to 8 lines, so don't use any more than that in a paragraph. So here's a guideline for using bullet points. It is important that you maintain the same grammatical form within a sentence and a bulleted list. So in this example, there are reasons, yes, basically, so make sure that's all aligned. And here's another example of bullet points as sentences. Oh, sorry, yes, I should go back one. So these are stem sentences. So there were several reasons causing the drop in production throughout Q4, and these are the reasons. So a stem sentence is where it gives reasons and then it ends in a full stop. So, and in the next example, you'll see that you use bullet points as a sentence. So there was, and my bad for not putting full stops at the end of them. But anyway, so you can see that there's a little bit of a difference. And I think that's all. That's all of our slides. Goodness me, that was short and sweet, wasn't it? So, I don't know if anyone has any questions, but I hope you'll leave some in the comments and I'll answer them later on tonight. Really, I don't know what to say. I'm a bit shocked that I didn't do more. Anyway, so next week, as I said, we're talking about business writing skills part 2, and that is to talk about more about punctuation and how it's used correctly, because a lot of people just do not use punctuation correctly, and they put too many spaces between full stops. They don't use commas correctly, they don't use quotations correctly, and so forth. So I think that's a bit better than bit better information than tonight. only because this was the 5 basic steps on how to start your business writing. So I hope it was helpful to you. I want to really thank you for joining me tonight. If you enjoyed the show, I would love it if you would click on the share button below and share amongst your Facebook friends. I'm sure that if you got some value out of it, they will as well. So yeah, just click the share button below and I would absolutely love that. So to get the documents related to this broadcast, you can get them in Business Basics Facebook group. And I've posted a link to that. It's a bit.ly link, so click on that and that'll take you to the Facebook page, and you'll find everything under the units. So as I've said, next week I'll be discussing basic business writing skills part 2, and so I just want to thank you for joining me on 5 Foot Rope TV tonight. So while you're there, make sure that you go and look at the other presenters, because there's a lot of information out there from various different types of presenters. Yeah, if you find one that you like, do follow them. So that's all from me tonight, and I look forward to your company next time. My name's Rose Davidson from doesbiz.com. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.